Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today, just a quick video, and I mean this is just going to be a quick video. If you've watched the last two Shrinkwrap videos I just posted, you're a trooper. If you watch them beginning to end, that's amazing. A lot longer than I wanted it to be and a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. Something I didn't touch on in that video was how long it actually takes to do a boat. To do it the way that was shown in the video, you're looking at about an hour and a half, give or take a little bit. If the frame's already made up, obviously it's going to be a lot quicker. Certain aspects of it could take a little bit longer depending, but typically on a boat that size, up to maybe an 18-foot, you're looking at an hour and a half for shrink wrap. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. Other than that, I learned a lot. My camera was a pain in my butt for the second half, and the fact that I had already sat down and I had edited and I wanted to make it one long video, I've obviously had to chop it up into two. The break in between kind of worked into my favor for it. But again, it was a learning curve, and that happens. That's if you can learn something every day, that day was worthwhile. So learned a lot, not looking at doing that in the future for very long videos. I want to definitely tame it down a little bit. Like I said in our intro video, I did not want to have hours long videos about one certain thing, but I think the shrink wrap video covered everything you need to know about shrink wrap. And there's probably going to be very few, if any, questions, regarding how to do it and, your step-by-step instructions. So I think you're going to be covered on that. So I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else I really need to touch on in regards to that. The other boat did show up actually to get shrink wrapped, and I'm going to do that one off camera. Whenever we get more into the shrink wrap season again, into the fall, I'll do another video on a ski boat potentially, or a wake boat. And then we'll do one on a pontoon boat, and I also want to do one on a cruiser. That's going to be a big one. They're obviously the bigger the boat, the more cost associated and the more time associated with it. And I just want to touch on how I do certain frames, and that might be something else that you might be asking too, is why the heavy duty frame. And as I mentioned before, we get quite a bit of wet, heavy snow up in our area. And we get lots of it, and our winters are long, and it could be 4 or 5 feet of snow that we get, and that's not all going to accumulate on there. With the angle that we give it, the snow comes off usually after every snowfall whenever the sun comes out. But back to the frame, the reason why I build them like that is that it can withstand the heavy snow loads, the heavy wet snow. If you get freezing rain that attaches itself to that prior to a snowfall, your snow load's going to sit on there for a long amount of time before that's going to want to come off. So we're concerned about windshields, being damaged. We don't want that to happen. And we don't want to have a failure. And I can honestly say that in all my years of shrink wrapping, I've had one failure total out of 20 plus years of shrink wrapping. And that failure actually came from where the customer had parked the boat. He had parked it close to a pine tree plantation. One side was getting blasted with sun, the other side wasn't. He had gone away for over a month. We had a lot of wet, heavy snow in between all that, and because the one side was coming off and the other side kept piling up, you know what happened, right? Mother Nature took its course, or gravity worked and collapsed the one side. And it was a lumber failure. It wasn't the shrink failure. When I got down to it to look at it, the shrink was actually still intact. It was the lumber that had failed, and it had failed at a knot in the wood. So no one really to blame on that. It is what it is. I mean, I went down in good faith and rebuilt the frame for the fall, or for the rest of the winter, and rewrapped it on site for him. Not a big deal. He was a good customer. But it was neither really, it wasn't my fault, it wasn't the material's fault. It was more, the owner's fault in the fact that he didn't he wasn't keeping an eye on it, right? So that's one thing that maybe you should probably do, and if you're not going to be around for any amount of time, have somebody check in on your boat, especially after, you know, a heavy snowfall, for that reason. If it's done right, you should never really have a failure unless, you know, weather related or something like that, right? So lessons learned on both sides for that. Excuse me. He no longer parks it that close to the trees and whatever else. So that's something for you guys too, is if you do have a boat that's shrink wrapped, whether you did it or you had a shop do it, whatever else, is pay attention to it. Don't park it in a place where it's going to get blasted with sun hot on one side and nothing on the other. You want that snow to be able to come off. And if it can't come off, it's going to fail at some point. I think, and don't quote me on this, I think the manufacturer does claim that when the shrink wrap shrunk, 200 pounds per square inch is what the shrink wrap can withstand. And like I say, the shrink wrap didn't fail on this boat, the frame did. So I've always built my frames that heavy. I continue to do so, and like I say, we've only ever had that one incident, and it was, you know, had to do with the snow and the parking spot and the weather, basically, with the sun. So that's everything. That covers, I think, everything that we need to cover for shrink wrapping video, for in-depth ones anyways. Like I say, the next ones that I do, I will mostly focus on key points to it, and we'll just reference back to this first video that I did for the general information, basically. And going forward, we're just going to pick out key points and we'll just showcase those. So something else I want to touch on here too was the thickness of shrink wrap that I was using. I was using 7 mil. There's also 8 mil available, and there might be some other stuff in there, but 7 is the thickness that I use. The 8 is heavier, a little bit harder to work with. If, you know, maybe if you're just getting into it, maybe 8 mil is the way to go until you get your heating down pat, for the reason that with the 7 mil, if you stay in one spot too long, it's instant hole, and there can be some thin spots. With the 8 mil, a little bit more forgiving. So maybe if you're just starting out, 8 mil might be the way to go. So other than that, I think everything else got covered. I just wanted to have a quick little video here just to maybe clarify a few little things and to touch on a few things. Hopefully the next video, and I'm not sure what that's going to be yet, I got a few things that I need to get going on here in the shop. So I guess it's going to depend on weather and what all happens and transpires here in the next few days. So minus 40 again tonight, so it's a little bit chilly, so it's kind of hampering my efforts here with moving forward, just because we are so weather dependent. So I think that just about covers everything. If there's a question you have or anything, by all means leave it in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to reply to it. Other than that, I'm going to leave the shrink wrap video, I think, at that. We're good. We're not going to touch on it anymore. Learning curve, big time on my side. But anyways, I want to thank you guys. If you watched that whole video beginning to end, kudos. Thank you very much. Please hit the like button. Again, it was a huge learning experience. So I don't plan on doing that anytime in the future. So anyways, we're going to try to keep them shorter. We're going to try not to say as much, and we're going to move forward with that. So thank you very much. Please hit the subscribe button if you like these videos. Hit the like button, and we'll catch you back here next time on Reality Boating with the next video. Thanks, and have a great day.